What's up, guys? It's Nate. Today we're going to check out some of your Reddit posts and also some of the questions on Quora. See if we might be able to provide some assistance in those areas. So let's see. This first one: do you view NPS score as a key metric? This is really interesting because NPS is all the rave. So for those of you that don't understand what NPS is basically Net Promoter Score. It basically means, would you recommend the product to somebody else? So it's a rating question, and basically what you're trying to figure out is what percentage of your clients would recommend your product to somebody else. So this particular question on Reddit references the CMO of Slack, right? Saying that that's a key metric for them. And that makes sense because not every SaaS product is the same, right? All of them are doing different things. And I think I read something about Slack that basically Slack has a positive network effect in the sense that the more people that are on it, the more value you derive out of it. So let's say something like Uber, right? If you are the only one of your friends that are signed up on Uber, you would still be able to, let's say, get rides to and from work or to and from the store. You could still order food and have it delivered. So the network effect isn't the same as something like Slack, right? Slack's a communication tool. So if I download Slack, I have Slack on my phone, and nobody I know has Slack. Slack can provide very little value to me. So something like NPS, which is going to say, basically, Nate said he would recommend this product to others, is critical, specifically if you have a network effect SaaS application. So I think that NPS in this instance is a great and easy metric to measure. Now they even have some tools and different JavaScript libraries where you can actually deploy quick little NPS questionnaires inside your application. So if somebody's on a certain page, you can pop up and ask them, would you recommend this product question. It's a really good way to get a reference point with your clients to see what they think. Specifically, again, if you have a network effect product. So in this application, I think NPS is a great metric. Specifically with Slack, because the whole idea for Slack is the more people that are on, the more value you'll derive from the application, right? So that was a really good question. But one thing I would warn you of is don't just blindly use NPS and nothing else. So it's a good place to start, but really think about what your application is doing and how you really want to grow. And if the goal is, to do some type of network effect, word of mouth approach to growth, then NPS makes a ton of sense. So let's jump over to Quora and let's take a look at some of these questions that I've answered previously. Let's see what we have in here. How involved should consumers be in product development decision making? This is a really interesting one. Because there's no definitive answer, right? It's not like, consumers should be involved 20%. The whole goal of product development, right, in most cases, let's say we're talking about SaaS products, is to build products that consumers will buy or download or use or websites that people will go to, right? So if you think about locking yourself away in a closet and building the coolest product anyone's ever seen and coming out and launching it and the whole world rolls over and basically you're the next Facebook, the chances of that happening are slim to none. So what I always like to do is I like to think of it as the product developer or product development team has the vision for the product. Overall, we know this is the type of thing we want to do for this type of audience, right? This is the goal. This is what we're going to try and do. But then the real key is where can you find your customers and how quickly can you get engaged with them with what Eric Ries used to call, or still calls, the MVP, with the minimum viable product. How quickly can you get that out to clients to see what they think, to start that iterative process of feedback, and then making changes, launching something new, getting feedback, making changes, launching something new. So you can figure out what's working, what's not working, what they like, what they don't like, right? Because your vision might be to help people, let's say, help people save more money, right? There's any number of ways you could do that, and you have apps like Acorn where it's just pulling little pieces off of your checking account, right, and storing those away. So if, let's just say they had never went out and tried to actually build an integration with a bank, right? So they never actually went out and got any feedback from a user to say, hey, this is what we want you to do. You got to enter your banking information so we can run, an API call out to your bank and pull back this information and actually start moving some money around. Let's say people were totally against that, and they built their whole product under the precedence of people will be okay with this. It would have been a horrible failure, right? So just think about things like that. When and how can you reach your target audience, show them an MVP, and get their feedback? And then once you start that process, it's really there's going to be some ebbs and flows in the product development lifecycle, right? Early on, you probably really want to be engaged with your customers, and you're really going to iterate quickly until you figure out what that product looks like. Then once you launch that product and you get out to market and you have a stable product and people are starting to sign up for it, it's less likely that you're just going to be able to take all this feedback in from all of your users, right, and rapidly change the product, because the product is going to get bigger, right? It's bigger, it's more complicated, you have more users, so there's more people to worry about. So you can't just, go changing up the UI every second day because of, someone who wasn't happy with something, right? Somebody wasn't happy with the button colors. You're not going to just go in and change that, in an ad hoc fashion, right? You're probably going to come up with, a standard release schedule, and unless it's a bug or a security fix, let's say every month, you're going to release your product updates. You're going to come up with a roadmap. Your investors will like that. Your users will like that. You can tell them what you're working on and when. And then typically what I would like to do is set up maybe a user group with some key clients. Maybe there's segments of clients, right? Start creating an open dialogue with them, and then really letting that feedback coupled with user metrics, right? So that we understand how people are actually using the application, and then you understand what they're thinking about, what they'd like to see it do. And then you use those two kind of inputs to figure out what you want to build and how quickly you're going to build it. So I think from an engagement standpoint, consumers are much more engaged early on in the decision-making process, and in the really product development early stages, right? Because you need their input to really get to the minimum product that you actually are, putting out there to production, so to speak. And then after that, it needs to become much more strategic. As your audience grows, as your platform grows, as more people sign up for your SaaS offering, you need to be much more strategic about when you release product changes and how you're going to consume customer feedback and let that drive your roadmap. That was a really good question, though. Let's see, what else? What is the hardest skill to teach in software engineering? This is a big one for me because I've spent a lot of time trying to develop the ability to communicate, right? Which is why I do these videos, why I do the podcast, it's why I try and write. Because I found early on in my career that although maybe I didn't have the technical aptitude as some others, the ability to communicate from a technical side to the business side is really what drives value in the organization. And what I found specifically in software engineering is the developers that I worked with, the ones that were most effective, were not the most talented, right? They weren't the most educated. They weren't the most hardworking, right? They were the most engaged. So who could I talk to or who could we bring to a meeting with the business users to get their input, their ideas, ask questions, talk through something they don't understand. I think from an engineering standpoint, really just any creative, you can get caught up in taking people's feedback very, very personally and just totally shut down when it comes to that communication. And if you do that, you're never really going to be able to grow. So let's say you've got the smartest developer in the world who builds this beautiful app, but it doesn't quite do what you need it to do. You have to be able to communicate that to them so they can learn, one, from your feedback, and two, maybe they made some assumptions going into it and they should have asked questions earlier. But if they can't communicate back and forth with the business, with their boss, with their colleagues, with the client, everything else is going to fall down, compared to that. Because if unless your plan is that you're just going to be a solo engineer, you're never going to work with anyone, you're going to build all this stuff yourself. You could do that, but the scale at which you can build applications, platforms, different technology solutions, you're just going to be severely limited by your inability to work in groups or take direction from clients, right? So I really think the hardest skill to teach in software engineering are the soft skills. Right now, with the plethora of information, you can YouTube how to use a new library, how to learn a new language, how to develop within a new framework, whatever it might be. There's a ton of resources out there, but the ability to communicate specifically your ideas to other people and then to receive constructive feedback from the people that you work with or that you're engaged with is huge. I definitely think communication and the ability to translate your thoughts into spoken or written words is the hardest skill to teach in software engineering. And not just software engineering, probably just in general. Right? So really focus on your ability to communicate and listen, and that will definitely advance your career, I think, much, much more quickly than any technical skill could on its own. So focus on those soft skills. All right, that's it for this episode of dataSmarts. Today we talked about the NPS score and how important that is in SaaS offerings, specifically those with network effects. And we also talked about how involved should consumers be in product development decision making, and what is the hardest skill to teach in software engineering. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. I'd love to hear your feedback and your comments. You can shoot me an email at nate@datasmarts.co. Again, that's nate@datasmarts.co. Hope to hear from you guys soon. Have a good one. Peace.